sometimes if you, again, getting back to knowing the contracts and dealing with people that know the contracts, sometimes I think, for instance, in the commercial market, there are buyouts offered that are much more than it would cost them to do it by the book. But they just don't want to know, you know. And that's a complicated contract to understand. So you might want to call the union and say, we're going to do this spot. It's going to be a national spot. It's going to play all over, or it's a little local spot. It's only going to play here. And you get some idea that you can give to your advertiser about what it's going to cost. Another thing is, for instance, I got a call this afternoon. Someone needed to do a sound alike of a Sinatra record that had 3 backup ladies. It was That's Life. And what they had originally thought they might want to do is just hire the Frank Sinatra guy and one lady to come in and do the parts. Well, that one lady is going to get $1,800, and for $1,500, you could have 3 girls. You could create 2 more jobs. You can keep those people in the business, feeding their family. You know, the trend that I've seen that really worries me is people hiring one person to become a trio or a quartet. And that is technically possible, of course, and it's a different sound. If you want that sound of, I know sometimes that's what you want, but to use one person to create a group or a trio, it actually, if you're doing it by the book, costs you a little more, and you don't keep the civilization alive. Randy, I'm sorry, I'm talking too much.
Okay. That's great. Another thing that, going back to Dan, your original question about things you can do to help, well, we appreciate that kind of question, because if there's no music being written by this community, we have nothing to sing. Okay, so I just want you to know, thank you. But for instance, the big trend toward using library music, you know, that's just been cranked out like sausages. If you as composers can, I've been approached to do it myself because I came into the business as an orchestrator. But if you can actually generate music yourself rather than resorting to library. In other words, when they say they want some source music cues, and it used to be that those got cranked out by composers, and they hired real people for them, and you can still do that very affordably, and you can do stuff that a whole bunch of people come in and do a whole bunch of great music for you, and you get your chops up writing a whole bunch of different music styles, rather than, well, my music supervisor found this stuff for $2 and it sucks, but that's the way it goes. No, you can change that whole paradigm just by saying, when you get approached, hey, I'd like to write some source music stuff that comes out of a jukebox or a radio, or is coming from a live, you know, supposedly a live on stage gig. If you guys can take a few of those things and actually hire real players and singers, it's way better, and we can do it. So
the music supervisor. Oh yeah.
Hey, Randy, I want to second what you said to any of the young composers in the audience. I've probably made more money off of royalties by writing my source music back to the days of Happy Days than letting someone else do it. So it's not something to just farm off to your music editor. I guarantee you can send your kids through college from that source music. So it's really true. It's true. So I'll second what you just said, okay?
All the series that were used to be on China Beach and picket fences and things you guys won't even remember, there were always source cues in those things, and they were always part of what the composer did, and singers came in and got scale for it, and all that stuff's gone away because of library.
And half of the stuff that they put in is crap.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, who's next?
I just wanted to get back to Dan's question. He's done a great job by putting events like this together, and I know he helped me when putting my events together a couple years ago. So events like this and personal engagement are kind of key to fostering a community of keeping everybody working, and realizing that some of us are members of many of the unions, like Mervyn, myself. Many of the singers in the room here are also members of AFM and are familiar with the complexities of all the contracts, and I think we can help foster a community of mutual understanding between the different communities so that we can all start working more together and finding the partnerships and the ways we can work contracts on both ends that help everybody stay in town and stay working. So thanks, Dan.
Thank you for that. That's great.
My question is more directed towards Stephanie and Terry. I've had the pleasure of working with Sally a couple times, and my producers were always very happy, and now they're wanting to come back and talk to you guys. So they formed a new game company, and one of the new markets out is people can form young game companies, and the people are getting younger and younger at programming and coding and all the iPhone games and everything coming out. But if a company is looking more down the line to become serious, you guys talked about you don't want to make a name for yourself as being the non-union guy who can get it done cheap. But for us in the startup phase, it does seem a little expensive for us to be able to record union with SAG. However, we don't want to do the non-union thing. We'd like to start a precedent and start a relationship working. Is there an option or like an entryway in, like the musicians union has the different scales based on the overall budget of a film project, where you get X amount of benefits by paying X amount of scale, but you can still get the full 90-piece orchestra if you need it, and can still sell the DVD if you need to. Are there any options like that for a startup company where we can work our way into getting, as the company grows to that level, then we can put ourselves there, but as it kind of does this, do you understand kind of, yeah?
Absolutely. As far as the interactive agreement, and if you're talking gaming,
Yeah.
there's not anything like that in place currently. We do have new media agreements, so that if this is something that conceivably could go on the internet, that you could make for the internet. Those are very user-friendly agreements in recognition of the fact that it is a very nascent business, and we don't exactly know how money is going to be made from the internet or how it will happen down the line. It's completely negotiable between the producer and the performers as far as initial compensation. So, I would suggest maybe looking at that agreement and seeing if that's something that could work for you. Start off with things for the internet, and then, as you make a name for yourself, move over into the interactive.
And
Yeah,
well, I just want to add a little bit to that. Is if we're talking specifically interactive for gaming, one of the things that's available in the interactive contract is if a day rate is too expensive, there's an hourly rate. So if you can get someone in and out real quick, it's a much lower rate. Just one of the options available if, maybe you're not doing a huge choir that requires, several hours of work on a smaller budget game. You can do that kind of
1 hour at a time.
Yeah,
okay.
and that's the rate sheet for that is in the package. So there's kind of, there's all these little nuances. I know it's hard. Everybody wants just the rates and this is it and that, to know what you need to do going in. But I would just really highly recommend, if you have a specific project, call us. We can see where we can try to fit it. I mean, again, our goal is to try to get our people to be working. So if we can try to figure out a way to navigate that for you, that's what we're here to do. And if we get a lot of calls looking for low budget interactive, maybe that's a discussion that we can have and open that up. I don't know if that's happened a lot yet. Yeah. Again, that's why we're here. Something for us to think about.
I think a lot of the younger game companies, they may not know that about this option. They don't really teach about it at USC or at any of the schools. They don't say, guess what, SAG-AFTRA can sing and do everything for you.
And no residuals.
So I think a lot of people don't know. So it's just a good conversation to start bringing up, I think, for us at least. But Thank you.
Great.
Who's next?
I've got a question about, over the course of the years, I think every composer, I'm sure Dan, for all the stuff that he's had on TV, there's a lot of great songs that didn't make it. We all have those. I've even heard, like great composers like Ron Miller, who wrote for Once in My Life, played me something that made you cry the minute you heard it. The demo was a record. We've all got those. And I keep thinking about, I really want to put this out as an MP3 or something like that, but there was no agreement made when you recorded it. In fact, some of the guys I recorded demos with are now artists and are doing quite well. And, it's like if I could put it out there, people would want to buy it. Is there any kind of a soft agreement? I mean, because you initially, if you're going to put it out yourself, you don't have a lot of money to suddenly, pay for the additional use. Is there any kind of a soft agreement that you guys have thought of to allow for this new technology of, maybe taking these great demos that are really records and being able to put them out there? And yet, I want to pay the artist, but I can't initially just put all this stuff out there and pay everybody up front. Let them participate in profit or let them participate in sales. Is there something like that in the works, or have you thought of that?
That would be considered a sound recording,
right,
that you're releasing. And pretty much, if it wasn't originally done under a union contract,
no, but I'm talking about for the future.
I'm just saying, if there's no way to sort of retroactively have
no,
it.
but what about for the future? I mean, it's like, it would be nice to be able to think about, since I've had such experience with all these great recordings that I can't do anything legally with, I'd like to start recording things that way. Now,
legally is a different issue. Whether it was done union or not doesn't necessarily...
Yeah, but I mean, I'd like to have something done up front that would allow me to have the option of doing that. To say, if I might write something for a movie, and if it doesn't make the movie, doesn't mean it's not a great song. It just wasn't the one they picked.
Well, so when you're going in to do that as a demo, that's what we were talking about earlier, is using one of the demo agreements that we have.
But I'm talking about then you want to put it on out there as an MP3, then that would become an additional use. If I read your material right,
yeah,
I initially have to pay right then and there for the additional use. I'm saying that, to me, it's like, Mervyn, as an artist, you got a royalty every time they sold a record, right? I'm talking about that type of an agreement in the demo recording, that, there's a conversion agreement. I think that this is the new technology. I mean, I think we need something like that.
Keep in mind that and we can maybe go over in a little more detail, the sound recordings rate, the master rate is not that prohibitively expensive.
Solo scale is about $214, I think.
For a 4.5 minute song, for up to a 4.5 minute song.
And
So
if you own the rights to it, I mean, if you recorded it yourself and you own the rights to it, and you could still get in touch with that person and get permission to put it into the next level.
Frankly, you wouldn't even need permission. You would just need to pay the scale, which is I think it's 214 now, for up to a 4.5 minute song for a solo. And you have the right to release it as either an MP3 or a CD or iTunes or...
One other quick question for Mervyn. That gospel movie was some of the most awesome arranging I've ever heard. I mean, that was so real. I'm a big fan of that kind of music.
Oh, thank you. Which one?
With Queen Latifah and Dolly.
Joyful Noise.
That was just beautiful. Now, when you said you had 12 singers, when you did the big meet they did with the group from Detroit, which was obviously a much bigger choir, did you add singers, or did you just still have the 12 people?
The group from Detroit in the film at the competition. Do you mean the Kirk Franklin group? Okay, that is the one song in the entire movie that I didn't produce, but I still may be able to answer your question. But Kirk is a respected, artist.
Right.
You may or may not know that he's a he's a real artist, and so we made the decision that, hey, let him do his thing, because I had a full plate producing, I think, 12 other songs.
No kidding.
So I was happy. I said to the director, let him do his. The director asked me, do you want to preside over that? And I said, if you want me to, I will, but I'm fine letting Kirk do it, because I know Kirk knows what he's doing. So Kirk actually recorded in Texas, and the director flew down there, and allowed me to continue working on other things here in LA for that one song. But if you have a question, I may be able to answer. You were asking.
Did you do the other groups on the LA competition?
I did every other song except that one.
Mm-hmm. If you haven't seen the movie,
and
you got to see it, because
the score as well.
Music in it is amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I didn't know we could have video clips. I would have brought a video clip.
I didn't know either.
Yeah.
I didn't ask. Okay.
Anyway, thank you.
Any other questions? Ashley?
Can you talk a little bit about, like in the musicians union, we have limitations on material, like in terms of minutes of music we can record in a session. Do you have limits on the amount of material you can record in a session? And also, what do you recommend as a yardstick for composers to expect to be able to get from singers in a session? How many minutes of material?
You know, I'm not sure about the minutes, and we may be some other opinions here, but there is no limit on what you can record. If you have a 3-hour waiver session, or if you have an 8-hour day, whatever you can accomplish in that time. And if you have real pros and people that know what they're doing, and you've laid it out carefully, you can get a lot. I've done 3-hour sessions where we've done 14, 15 cues. I don't know how that translates into minutes, but you know, I mean that. Yeah. And tripled it. Multiple.
I've never had anybody tell me to stop, which I have with musicians.
Oh my gosh! Oh dear. No, it's until the clock goes off. You can just do as much as you can.
Thanks, Sally.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Yeah, okay.
I know that, my name's Jonathan Merrill, by the way, and I know that SCL members can get a discount for classes at the UCLA Extension. And we have a class over there that I teach periodically called Choral Composition for Film and Television. So it's something you might want to look into. We've had Sally and Bobby and Randy as guests and as singers too. So.
Thanks very much. I think I should take that course. Well, join me in thanking our amazing panelists and. For the time and thought they put into all their answers, and thank you all for coming and being interested in learning more about this. I think we want to, if anything, keep the lines of communication open. I think it's the most important thing. As singers and artists and composers, we rise together, and we want LA to continue to be a vibrant live recording scene. We want that work that goes abroad to come back here so we can work here, and that, you know, it continues to be a great place to be working. So we'll do more events of this kind, and please give us your feedback. Give Stephanie and Terry and Sally and me your feedback as to, you know, what you'd like to see in terms of events and how we can take these kinds of conversations further. I think once Ayana has some information for us on their kind of database, excuse me, we'll put that up perhaps on the SCL website, make it available to everybody. So thanks very much for coming. Take care.